What's up, Taiwan? I'm Ichiro with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Over a dozen historic sites in southern Taiwan need repairs after Tuesday night's powerful earthquake, and the Culture Ministry is vowing help. But some of the damage is extensive and aftershocks are continuing to hit the area. John Van Trieste reports.
Shattered plaster and piles of splintered tiles littered the ground after a magnitude 6.4 earthquake hit the historic city of Tainan. This collection of around 20 buildings on the city's edge, known as the Old Jiang family residence, is a farming village, with some sections dating back 200 years. But the main quake and the punishing aftershocks that followed threatened to make this historic complex uninhabitable. The assessment of the damage, from cracked roofs to crumbling columns, is grim.
有的是整个屋顶塌掉，有的是裂开。如果这个未来不做修缮的话，这个房子是没办法再住人。那因为目前这个房子毁损的程度很严重，我们希望看看是不是政府单位能够尽速来协助帮忙。
This is just one of 13 historic sites in the oldest city in Taiwan that needs urgent repairs after the earthquake. At this site, commemorating one of the bloodiest uprisings against Japanese colonial rule, the walls are warped and split with cracks, while glass windows have disintegrated. And while damage is lighter at Hobi train station, built in 1902, a professional assessment is still needed to make sure the structure is okay.
The
Culture Ministry is already drawing up plans for repairs and promising it will fight to get the funding needed. But aftershocks, the strongest above magnitude 5.0, continue to rattle this historic corner of Taiwan. So the damage may not be over. Hank Xu and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
The Digital Affairs Ministry says undersea cables connecting Taiwan's outlying Matsu Islands to the rest of the country have been severed. The ministry says the cables are believed to have failed due to natural deterioration with no suspicious ships detected nearby. Backup communication systems have been activated, partially restoring internet access for the island's 14,000 residents. U.S. President Donald Trump signaled he would start a trade war with China by slapping a 10% tariff on Chinese imports. There are also questions about how he would approach the question of Taiwan. For more on how Trump may handle U.S. China-Taiwan relations, Leslie Liao spoke to Steve Yates, Senior Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation.
What does it mean for the U.S. to balance this unofficial relationship with Taiwan and also confront this threat from China without this escalation in the Indo-Pacific region?
Yeah. Well, first I would say Secretary Rubio knows these issues exceedingly well. He might be the best prepared Secretary of State we've ever had in this policy area. Has very clear views that are in alignment with the president's, but also knows leaders in broader Asia and other key regions very, very well. So when he's talking about the China challenge, I think most Americans agree that in terms of an external challenge to the United States, it's by far the most significant we've faced in maybe 2 generations. So Secretary Rubio has his hands full, but he is extremely knowledgeable on this. I think he's going to be pushing back by making sure that if the United States and our allies are doing all we can to protect ourselves, to thrive economically among ourselves, to increase secure supply chains and lessen dependencies on those who seek to do us harm, all of those trends lead us to a more peaceful path with regard to coexisting with the People's Republic of China. So I think that's his marching orders.
Looking at this giant checkerboard here, what's going to be some of Trump's biggest priorities when looking at the China challenge right here?
Well, really, it comes back to energy and raw materials. They're some of our most sensitive supply chain vulnerabilities. If you're going to be a high-tech manufacturing export economy, you have to have access to rare earth materials. You have to have access to a lot of different minerals and raw materials. In recent decade or so, People's Republic of China has monopolized supply chains in some of these areas. All of the refining of these materials, whether it's petroleum products or just rare earths or other minerals, that even if we extracted them in the United States, the processing of them in many cases is in China. And so we have to do some things together with our allies to reprocess, store, and mine for these things to lessen that dependency. If we don't do that, then there's leverage that I think is insurmountable, where China feels like they have ways that can cripple us in a time of crisis, and they themselves have insulated themselves against sanctions.
And has there been a shift in President Trump's China policy, whether he's being more lenient or being more tough on him? Is there any shift because there was this kind of period in between where he wasn't in power?
Well, I've lived in the sort of U.S., China, Taiwan, Asia policy space for 35 years, and there hasn't been a day when the words of a president haven't been microanalyzed to death. But living every day on the edge of a potential Taiwan crisis, South Sea crisis, Senkaku Islands crisis, that's not where President Trump wants to be. And so we'll see whether he's able to reset that sort of chessboard. But those things are going to be going on. The first 2 days, the first 100 days are not going to be sufficient to draw conclusions. I would just end with Secretary Rubio is, I think, probably the single most reassuring signal anyone could ask for in terms of where the president's priorities are going to go. And we look to him to be a clear articulator of what matters in this U.S.-Asia relationship going forward.
That was Steve Yates, Senior Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. For the full interview, check out Zoom In, Zoom Out on TaiwanPlus.com. Taiwan is gearing up to co-host the 2026 World Baseball Classic Qualifiers in February, and it's looking to keep its winning streak in international baseball going.
Taiwan and the U.S. will be hosting the World Baseball Classic Qualifiers this year. The event comes after Taiwan claimed championship at the WBSC Premier 12 Baseball Tournament in Japan in 2024. With that achievement under Taiwan's belt, there are high expectations for the national team, which competes under the name Chinese-Taipei.
Well, there's so much momentum from Team Chinese-Taipei after their great showing in the Premier 12. So we think that they're going to be ready to go. We think that there's so much on the line to make it into the main tournament that Chinese-Taipei will be ready to play. But they got to be ready to play because those three other teams are going to be very formidable. So it'll be tough, but we expect them to play really well.
Why is it going to be so challenging? Because unlike the Premier 12, professional Major League players can take part in the Classic. In the first round, Team Taiwan will face off against South Africa, Spain and Nicaragua. The team will start training in February and will have warm-up matches against a team from South Korea at Taipei Dome to make sure the athletes are in peak condition for the World Baseball Classic qualifiers. Chrisma and Sanichi for TaiwanPlus.
Japan's Ichiro Suzuki has become the first player from Asia to be accepted into Major League Baseball's Hall of Fame. Suzuki played in MLB for 19 years, mostly for the Seattle Mariners. After his induction into the Hall of Fame, the Mariners announced plans to honor Suzuki by retiring his number 51. He is credited with paving the way for other Asian players in U.S. Major League Baseball. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, we leave you with images of an art installation in Macau, where British pop artist Philip Kohlberg has placed giant inflatable lobsters across the region. I'm Sanichi, take care and see you next time.
Thanks for watching TaiwanPlus. For more stories from around the world, including the Solomon Islands, download the TaiwanPlus app.